In today's episode, we're joined by Chris Landon, CEO of Natus Medical, a leader in neurodiagnostics and sensory solutions. With wealth of experience in medical devices, Chris is driving innovation to improve patient outcomes. So I'm super excited to discuss his vision and the future of neurotechnology. Welcome onto the show, Chris. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for inviting me, Tim.
No, of course, my pleasure. How's the start of the year been for you and the team at Natus?
We've had a great start to the year. We closed up a really strong 2024. We measure that both in terms of the number of lives that we impact, as well as obviously the financial performance of the company. And I think people are feeling really good about both things right now, which is a good sign. And we engage in a number of activities here at the beginning of the year just to get our people excited, share with them the vision, refresh our strategy, remind them of what's important about our culture, really about putting patients at the center of everything we do, and then lay out for them the path forward in terms of how we're going to manage our success. So all that work is done now. I'm excited to get into the second month of the quarter here in February and to start executing against our vision.
Fantastic. Sounds like you had a good start or had a good year last year and a good start so far, which is always great. I guess for the viewers that are tuning in and listening that may not know who Natus is in the business, could you just give us a high-level overview of the company just to kind of paint a picture for the listener?
Sure. Natus Neuro is a company that's been around for quite a while. In fact, a lot of people are surprised to hear we are the world's largest pure play neurodiagnostics company. Our company provides diagnostic solutions to clinicians and healthcare professionals that are designed to help people with different types of neurological disorders get to a diagnostic more quickly, more accurately, so they can get into the care pathways that are going to help them get back to their normal lives. Those different types of neurological conditions that we address are broad. We go all the way from neurodegenerative diseases, things like epilepsy, to neuromuscular diseases, as well as into the neuro ICU with people with traumatic brain situations. So our diagnostics are used in a lot of different settings in a hospital. But they all serve the same purpose of getting a patient in a bad situation into the right care pathway so they can get back to healing and getting back into the lives that they live.
And I know from our previous conversations, you mentioned AI. Obviously, we both talked about AI and how it's playing a huge part in our industry. I'm super curious, and I know the listener will be too. How is the business integrating AI into its products over the last couple of years? And if you have done so, what kind of prompted that shift?
Sure. AI is one of those mega trends that I think everybody in healthcare has to pay attention to right now.
For sure, definitely.
The capability for AI to impact how patients are diagnosed, how clinicians have capacity to take care of patients coming their way, and how healthcare systems have economic efficiencies available to them to facilitate more cost-effective interventions. All of these things can be impacted by AI at the end of the day. Where we're at in the world of neurodiagnostics and in the evolution of the use of enabling technologies like AI is really focused right now on the clinician and trying to leverage tools like AI to allow clinicians' capabilities to scale over more patients. Our best example for that are patients who are being diagnosed in an epilepsy care pathway. Those types of patients who have seizures, who introduce themselves into the healthcare system to get a diagnosis, really have a lot of difficulty getting to a diagnosis and getting into a care pathway rapidly. And the reason for that is because it's very difficult to diagnose epilepsy. It is obvious that a patient will have had a seizure, sometimes not so obvious, but it is very difficult for physicians with the tools and the capability sets that are available to them today to isolate the cause of the seizure, to determine whether or not epilepsy is at the root cause and what to do about it at the end of the day. The biggest challenge is the amount of data that has to be collected on a patient longitudinally in order to find the cause that is sitting behind whatever prompted that seizure. Enter the concept of AI. If you could bring an algorithm to bear on the massive amounts of data that EEG diagnostics gather on a patient, you can do a lot to scale that clinician's diagnostic capability, the expertise of the human being that's required to get to a patient's diagnosis. You could scale that over a lot more patients in a lot more rapid of a manner. And that's ultimately what we're trying to do with this first generation of AI solutions that we're bringing into healthcare. Now, Natus already has launched its first AI-enabled algorithm that we use in the epilepsy monitoring unit. And that
Okay.
diagnostic, I call it as a Gen 1 diagnostic. It's designed as a proof of concept to demonstrate to clinicians that machine learning based algorithms can be used to enhance the current workflows that exist in the clinic today to speed up the process by which doctors are able to read
Yeah.
the output from EEG diagrams, as well as to prioritize or triage the most severe cases so that eyes get on the most severe cases as quickly as
Oh,
possible.
wow.
In the next generation of AI, which is just around the corner, we're talking about
Yeah.
2025, not somewhere distantly in the future. We're going to take that same capability and apply it to long-term studies, studies that are conducted over 3 to 5 days sometimes, or studies that can be conducted at home in a different setting outside the hospital. Those studies tend to generate a lot more data. In fact, I had a doctor tell me just this week that they have so much demand in their hospital that if we could take the capacity of a person who could read an EEG from 4 studies a day, which is what they can do today, to
Yeah.
40 studies a day, which they have demand for today, then we can treat a lot more patients. And that's
Wow.
actually the problem we're trying to solve. We're not trying to get too far over our skis when it comes to
Mhm.
conducting massive amounts of new research on data using AI. We're not really trying yet to drive different types of patient outcomes when it comes to the treatment of patients who are being diagnosed. What we're starting with is the low-hanging fruit of just making healthcare more accessible to the patients who need it.
Okay. Wow. I think there's a lot to take away from there. I mean, the demand seems to be huge. If the fact that they can only treat 4 patients at a time, and then this will allow them to do 40. I mean, that will have a tremendous impact
Yeah.
on the amount of patients we can reach.
Tim, we're just talking about epilepsy right now, which is probably one of the biggest conditions that our products
Yeah.
and technologies are used for. It's not by any means the only diagnostic tool that is available to our customers through the Natus portfolio. But
Mhm.
epilepsy is a great example and a great starting point because of how prevalent that disease is. A lot of people don't realize it. In the U.S. alone, there are 1.2 million people,
Yeah.
400,000 of which are children who are walking around with epilepsy. These are people who've had seizures. They've gone through some diagnostic process already, and they are determined to have epilepsy, and their disease is trying to be managed. There are only 2,000 epileptologists in the US.
Wow.
Now, the number of people who are able to read EEGs is greater than 2,000, but not substantially so. That just those numbers alone, the idea of 1.2 million patients spread around 2,000 doctors just in the US, where we have great infrastructure and great access to
Yeah.
healthcare, is overwhelming. But then you consider the number of times a single patient has to be studied in order to get to an accurate diagnosis. Sometimes it's 4 to 6 times over a course of 1 to 2 years. So just the number of interactions a single patient has to have with a healthcare unit in order to get to an accurate diagnosis is overwhelming. So we have actually a major issue in the U.S. Right now with epilepsy,
Mhm.
uncontrolled epilepsy, patients who are not getting access to healthcare they need in order to get their epilepsy under control. And that has dramatic impact on society. It obviously has a dramatic impact on the
For
health of the
sure.
patient. But there's also a mental health component around people who live with epilepsy, uh, always scared that they can't live a normal life. They can't participate in normal activities
Yeah.
like sports or like driving a vehicle. So this is a major challenge, and we have the tools and technologies, thanks to some of these enabling trends in the world of AI and machine learning, to really get after those challenges, and that's what we're focused on.
What would you say the challenges have you guys faced so far in terms of implementing this, developing the technology, and more importantly, implementing it in hospitals and healthcare settings?
Yeah, well, there's several challenges. You start with the world of how do you even get these types of algorithms approved,
Yeah.
assuming you have access to all the data you need and all the technology you need. And we've been fortunate. AI-based algorithms are being approved in medical devices going all the way back to the late 90s. But even still, we've only got, I would estimate, somewhere around 1,000 different products that
Yeah.
have AI capabilities built into them, approved through the FDA. And almost all of those, probably 3/4 of them, are radiology in nature, imaging in nature.
Yeah.
So there is still quite a learning that has to happen between industry and our regulators in terms of figuring out how do we develop these algorithms, how do we study them, and how do we demonstrate that they are safe and effective in their use. And that's we get after that through a lot of collaboration with our regulators, as you might imagine. In fact,
Yeah.
this week I'm leaving on this weekend to go to a conference in Colorado, specifically designed to bring AI more into the epilepsy space, and of
All
course.
right.
How we get through regulatory pathways in collaboration with our researchers is a big part of that. That's challenge number one. Challenge number two is just developing and training the algorithms. In the world of neurology, it's not quite the same as the world of cardiology. There's a lot of variability in terms of how these different diagnostic tools are used,
Yeah.
how doctors use terminology to describe what they see in the different waveforms that are there, and just standardization in terms of how we notate what the doctors are observing when they see abnormalities in the scans. So we have to get to a certain level of standardization, and we have to be able to consolidate massive amounts of data in order to train algorithms. Just that work of data cultivation, I think, is the second major challenge. The third major challenge is once you do have a product, and we have one now, we're the only company that actually has a AI-based algorithm in an EEG product used in the epilepsy lab.
Fantastic.
The challenge is adopting clinical workflows to make use of that. And that's
Yeah.
what we're learning now. So we are still in the early stages of a release of this particular product. We call it AutoScore. And we're working with clinicians around the country in the US. And we have also some partners outside the US, very important partners who also contributed greatly to the development of this product that are helping us describe through research and through publication how to adopt these into your workflows such that clinicians continue to have control over the diagnostic process, but the algorithms are useful in driving efficiencies in the labs. So those are the three big challenges that we're working on. I can tell you there's a lot more, especially when you start dreaming bigger about how you might be able to bring AI technology to adjacent challenges or to adjacent departments in the hospital. In fact, we have another product now that's in limited market release that's uses AI in the ICU to monitor patients in neurocritical care situations. But again, a lot of the problems come down to those three core challenges that I was just describing.
No, I think you've kind of hit the nail on the head there. And with those challenges, those are the things that I kind of come across quite a lot in terms of having these discussions and kind of the discussion about AI specifically. So that completely makes sense. I guess from a business perspective, what does that look like in terms of global expansions, and how is AI-based technologies? Is it going to be easier for you to scale it internationally, do you think, or are you in the process of doing so, or what does that look like?
Yeah. Well, look, I think the needs are the same, whether you're talking about the U.S., other mature healthcare markets outside the U.S., or developing markets that don't have the same kind of infrastructure. If we're just talking about epilepsy, and again, I don't want to make this only about epilepsy, but epilepsy is a prevalent problem. 5 million patients around the year get diagnosed globally with epilepsy. And many of those patients live in places where they don't have easy access to healthcare facilities that have trained EEG technicians that can drive these diagnostics, or they don't have access to ambulatory care, remote telehealth type of facilities that can help patients get to a diagnosis. Well, if you can bring machine learning or AI-based solutions to those markets, you can have a doctor in Cleveland monitoring a patient in Kenya and getting to that same diagnostic. There's no reason that technologically can't happen. But again, it's still a capacity issue. We have to be able to scale the capacity of those clinicians. Like I said, the doctor told me from 4 to 40 a day, that's the goal. We're not there yet, by the way, but that's the way we have to start moving it. And when you start thinking about AI enhancement around your clinical workflows as a way to scale your clinicians, you can quickly see how this can become, your solutions can become global in nature. But then, of course, there's a lot of other challenges you got to get through: data privacy, regulatory pathways, just training local staff to be able to provide that last mile coverage between a patient and a clinician, so that the electrodes and the tools that the patient still has to interact with get used correctly. So those challenges are all out there. It makes rolling some of these solutions out more difficult and more timely and costly. But for sure, when I think about what the future looks like for our business, applying AI into all of our different modalities of care across brain health, neuromuscular, and the neuro ICU on a global basis is the future. It's everything that we're about right now.
It's great to hear. It's great that the business is adopting what, I guess, where the medical device industry is going to, and I think I completely agree with you. AI is going to be the next big thing, and it already is, and how it's affecting our industry, specifically enhancing patient care, which is at the end of the day is the most important thing for any business within this industry. So that makes complete sense. Let me ask you this. How do you ensure that, I guess, AI and automation, which is great, by the way, because obviously it's going to let us be able to go into more patients and then treat more patients. But how do we ensure that AI doesn't replace the human element of patient care? Because I think that's super important, as well as kind of being able to reach as many people as you can, but also have that human element to the actual patient care side of things as well.
Yeah. That's a great question. A bit philosophical at the end of the
Yeah.
day, but certainly an important concern. And I know that there are going to be several discussions just at this conference I was just mentioning to you happening this week
Yeah.
in Colorado that are designed right around that. Is what is the right line to be drawn between how you leverage these algorithms and these tools to enhance clinical workflows, improve the accuracy of your diagnostics, improve the patient experience, versus losing control of that and potentially putting a patient down a wrong care pathway. What I can tell you, our approach is to execute on a plan that really focuses on those clinical workflow efficiencies first and improving access to care. If you look at our AutoScore product that's in the market today right now, it really fundamentally is a triaging product. We use the algorithms to do an overread of the studies that the doctors are recording from the patients. And then we're presenting to the doctor a prioritized set of studies that he or she can go through in order to get a patient into the right care pathway the quickest. And all we're simply doing is organizing that by the most probable abnormal case all the way down to the least probable abnormal case. We're not actually practicing medicine. And in fact, I should clarify, our product's not even a learning product. It's a fixed algorithm. We're not learning from the additional studies that are being done.
Right.
So we're trying to create some controls that way. And it's a go slow to go fast type of strategy at the end of the day.
Yeah.
We want clinicians to interact with our algorithms, to try to adopt it into their workflows, and to give us feedback on where the technologies ought to be able to go next, and where we take the innovation will be completely dictated by the clinicians that are doing research and using the products at the end of the day.
Okay, thanks for that insight, by the way. Yeah, no, that's great. Definitely wasn't one of the more philosophical questions that I was going to ask, but I think it's important for the viewer to understand how that works as well, because I think the big conversation about AI is what the impact will be, but also how is it going to fit in between the human element of patient care, as well as being able to speed up the process of caring for those patients. So
well, Tim, you can take that philosophical point of view, take it outside of neurology, and apply it to almost every area of
exactly,
health.
yeah.
Just think about all the tasks that these very highly trained clinicians, whether they're physicians or nurses or techs, think about all the non-value added tasks that they're involved in every single day. Think about all the data they have to consume, all the documentation that they have to produce, all the administrative work that they have to do. If we're just applying AI to those challenges, we're solving a huge problem when it comes to patient access to care, because we're freeing up capacity to put that expertise against the problems that they're trained to address. And that, for us, is where we start. Now, do we envision a world where ultimately we're able to consolidate more data, train more algorithms, and be more engaged in both clinical research as well as in driving better outcomes? We do envision that world. That is possible. But where we're at today is we're at the beginning. I mentioned there's been about 1,000 products approved by the FDA with AI machine learning algorithms built into them. In the world of neurosciences, there's only 30 such products that have been approved. So we still have a long way to go.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Definitely got a long way to go, and again, an exciting insight as well. A lot to think about there, but thanks for going into such detail about obviously the products, what the business is doing. I guess something that the viewers will want to understand more about a company like Natus is the culture and the growth. I mean, you've talked about some of the most exciting developments from a product development perspective. What's something that people might not know about working at Natus, specifically working within the business, that you
Yeah.
would want to share?
Well, I appreciate that. Natus is a company, as I mentioned, that's been around for quite a long time.
Hmm.
Our history goes back to the world of neonatal care, which is where the word
Yeah.
Natus comes from to begin with. And the company's evolved a lot over the years, bringing in
Hmm.
different types of technologies, all diagnostic in nature, almost entirely diagnostic in nature, designed to span many different types of clinical conditions. About 2 years ago, we split the company apart, and the portion of the company that I manage now it is a standalone company. It's Natus Neuro, and we are wholly focused on neurodiagnostics. And the reason that that is important, other than in terms of giving us a focus in terms of where to put our investment in R&D and infrastructure and those things, is it allows us to put the patient at the middle of everything we do. And over the course of the past year, we've gone through a transformation in our business that really is patient-centric. And what that means is that we think about the patient in just about every aspect of the decision making that we have, whether it's a new product that we want to provide, a service that we want to provide, a enhancement to an existing product that patients might be interacting with, or even just developing empathy for the patients, the families that support them, and the doctors that are trying to care for them through very difficult situations, whether it's an
Yeah.
ICU situation, patient maybe who's had a stroke, who's having a hard time even getting into a care pathway because they're not stable, or a patient who's got a neuropathy of some type, or a neuro movement disorder of some type, or of course the epilepsy patient, which we were just talking about. We want to be able to develop empathy for these patients because that's going to help us ask better questions and get to better innovations at the end of the day. And one of the interesting things that's been revealed is the number of patients that are employees in our company. And we're not that big at the end of the day. We're around 1,000 employees
Hmm.
worldwide. But we have employees now revealing to us that they have epilepsy, or they have neuropathy, or they have a
Oh,
movement disorder, or they have family members that they care for. And we're starting to build a community inside our own house that allows us each to understand in a more personal way the journeys that our patients go through. And you can only be a better company when you understand what it is a patient goes through in the world of medical technologies. I tell my team all the
yeah.
time, if we put the patient at the center of everything we do, we don't even have to worry about the business. It will just come. It will just come. And I truly believe that, and I think the culture of our company reflects that.
No, that's incredible. I think if for anyone that's listening, they just from hearing you talk, they can see that the Natus is definitely patient centric first. I mean, that's for sure, and that's incredible as well in terms of the internal team to for people to actually have the confidence to be able to come up and say, I've actually got epilepsy as well." Just goes to show how good the culture is, because you wouldn't be able to do that in a company where culture is not at the forefront
I
in
agree. I
place.
mean, the old quote that strategy or culture eats strategy for breakfast certainly applies. And one of the things that I'm really excited about now that we're focused wholly on neurodiagnostics is that as more and more of our own people come to the forefront and tell their stories, all the rest of us benefit because we take a little bit more pride in what we do. We're a little bit more
Yeah.
motivated to work together to get things done. And some of the harder challenges or some of the mundane things that we have to get through, which sometimes are a part of being a medical device company, or sometimes are just things we haven't yet fixed in our company. It's easier to power through those things and to start getting to resolution when you're motivated by the mission. And that's ultimately what we're about.
I think that's what a lot of companies strive for, and it's super, super hard to be able to create an environment where people take super extra pride in their work. And you can only do that through creating good culture, through creating an environment where people are happy to come in every day, and a safe environment for that matter as well. So, I mean, kudos to you and the rest of the team for being able to create a business like that. I guess for you, and for the rest of the team, when you're hiring, what whether that's across the technical functions or commercial functions, what qualities do you look for
Yeah.
in terms of bringing people on board?
Well, so we were just talking about the importance of culture.
Yeah.
It is hard to work in a medical device setting. I
Hmm.
remember early in my career, I was doing a lot of work in high tech. I hadn't yet touched medical technology. And I remember the first time I was approached about a medical device job. my immediate reaction was, heck no, I would never take a job that is in such a regulated industry where every interaction with your customer is monitored to the nth degree, and where technology innovation, while impactful, is slow.
Yeah.
And what I was missing in all that, of course, is the patient impact and the miracles that can be achieved when doctors begin to collaborate with engineers to produce things that didn't exist before to bring
Yeah.
relief to patients. But you've got to be motivated by that. You've got to be motivated by that patient benefit, because everything else you have to do is is very regulated, it's very monitored, it's very controlled, and it has to be. This is how we ensure patients are safe, and
Yeah.
that when something goes wrong with the device, we know how to get it back so that nobody is hurt. This is the nature of our industry at the end of the day. And so that culture fit has to be there. Second of all, you have to have some technical expertise, and that can be on the business side, it could be on the sales side, it can be
Yeah.
on the engineering side, but some technical expertise that's been refined. I'll tell you, we just had a customer visit this past week. A really important visit. We're rolling out some new technologies, and our salespeople who are leading the meeting are all former clinical techs themselves. They're people who really speak the language
Yeah.
of the clinic, of the physicians, of the other nurses and techs that are in the room, but they also understand the technology, and they can translate it in a way that mere mortals like me can't. I was stuck talking about the culture and the vision. The real work had to get done by those technical people. So that would be the second thing I'm looking for is are people who have something technical to add at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And then I think the third thing I always like to look for in every employee is just a curiosity, a drive to get better at something at the end
Yeah.
of the day. And it doesn't necessarily have to be better at your job. I recognize that it's really hard to work in a medical device setting, and we all need to find ways to blend that work and that life experience. And so, if you have an ambition to get better at something, you're going to bring a better version of yourself to work every single day, and that's what I look for. And I try to encourage that a lot. We talk a lot about what it means to be culturally sound here. We talk a lot about what it means to be diverse and have psychological safety
Yeah.
established in the workplace, so that you can actually dare to be different and dare to have bad
Yeah.
ideas that might not resonate very well, and not feel like that's going to somehow ruin your life or in any way. And then to have fun. I mean, we want to have fun. We want to bring fun in what it can be sometimes a really difficult environment to work in, based on just how heavily it's regulated. And so these are the things we look for at the end of the day.
For any listener as well that is within the space and interested to find out more, I'd definitely recommend to go on the Natus company page. I understand that you guys are hiring at the moment. You're growing rapidly, so apply directly, definitely. But I guess just to kind of wrap everything up, what's next for the business? For what should people look out for this year specifically? I know you said there's some exciting product launches. The company's expanding. What's kind of one thing that people should look out for this year?
I'd say, we've spent a lot of time talking about AI and some of the technology that's enabled by that. One of the things we're really excited about is taking our tool set, and EEG is a great example of that, and taking it to more settings in the hospital.
Mhm.
So, for example, we have a very large install base in the U.S. when it comes to putting our technology into epilepsy monitoring units, which are centralized functions typically within a large hospital at the end of the day. But that's not the only place EEGs are being taken. And we want to be able to bring technologies that are easy to use, that are AI powered,
Yeah.
to the emergency room, and to the intensive care unit, and to other sites where EEGs could be taken to enhance the patient experience and get them into a care pathway more expediently. And so we've got a new product. It's called Brainwatch. We're bringing that out. I mentioned it just a moment ago, in a limited
Yeah.
market release right now. We expect to have that in full market release by the second half of the year. And I think that is going to really enable a trend that's already happening in the industry. A lot of collaborators, partners to us, are supporting us on this. Some of our competitors are also going in the same direction, but that is to take this notion of an EEG as a difficult to read diagnostic, and really making it a vital sign that can be recorded and monitored by different technicians and clinicians who have different types of skill sets at the end of the day. That's going to be, I think, a real big game changer at the end of the day when it comes to getting in front of the challenges that people have with brain care. And it's just one step in the journey. So that one I'm particularly excited about. We have another set of innovations that are crossing into our neurocritical care business as well as our neuromuscular businesses as well. We have that full portfolio. It's going to allow us really to expand our reach. The final thing I'm excited about is our international expansion. We have several activities underway that are designed to increase our reach outside of the US. Now, we are already a global company. We generate about 35% of our revenues outside the US. But we see dramatic levels of underpenetration of the markets that we serve. We think those are growth opportunities, and we're talking about big markets like Western and Eastern Europe and China, Southeast Asia, Latin America. In fact, I'll be out in Colombia in a few weeks, meeting with our distribution partners out there. So we see these opportunities everywhere, and we want to invest in the ones that are going to allow us to get our technologies into the hands of doctors who are ready to use them now.
Yeah. Look, Chris, it's always fun speaking with you. Thank you so much for your time. I know it's valuable. I know you're busy. But I think the listeners will definitely take a lot from this conversation, and I'm excited for everyone to hear this. But again, thank you so much for your time today.
Well, thanks, Tim, and congratulations to you on this new podcast. I think you said I'm number 4, number 5 in the queue. I'm honored to be part of it, and I wish you great success.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I hope you found this episode insightful. I share weekly content on industry trends and talent insights over on my LinkedIn page at Tim Eramkhan. Together we're building a community, and the best way to grow is if you can share this episode with someone in the industry and consider subscribing. I hope you enjoyed the episode, and see you next time.